Hello everyone. Today we are going to analyze the short story The Intrusion by Shashi Deshpande, a searing exploration of consent, patriarchy and silent suffocation of women in marriage. This story pulls no punches back. This story also lays bare the emotional and physical violation of a young bride whose body and agency are treated as property. So, dear students, just imagine a room heavy with expectation. A door clicks shut. A woman holds her breath. This is how Shashi Deshpande's The Intrusion begins. This doesn't begin with a scream, but this begins with a silence that deafens. And let's take a little bit of look at the author. The author, Shashi Deshpande, she is a prominent Indian writer in English, and she is also known for her insightful exploration of women's issues, identity and family dynamics in post-colonial India, which means just after India acquired the freedom. She was born on 19th August 1938 in Dharwad, Karnataka, and she was born in a literary family. She has actually the literary background because her father Sri Ranga, he is a renowned Kannada playwright. So, it was there in her blood. Deshpande, she completed her education in Bombay, which is now called as Mumbai, and she later earned a degree in law from Bangalore University. Yes, you are listening it right. She acquired a degree in law initially, but later on she developed her passion for writing, and that led her to pursue a career in literature, and that's the reason she went on to study journalism in London. And Deshpande began her literary career in 1970s. She started initially by writing short stories and novels that often focus on the struggles of women in a patriarchal society. Her works are characterized by their realistic portrayal of domestic life and the inner lives of her characters, and in particularly she focused more on women who are grappling or who are struggling with societal expectations and personal aspirations. Women have a lot of expectations from society. She has to take care of the family, and she also has her own personal desires to achieve. So, all these struggles are clearly depicted in her works. Deshpande's writing is marked by its psychological depth and nuanced exploration of gender roles, marriage and identity. So, she is also talking about these three things importantly, and gender roles in the sense how male and female discrimination, and of course, the system of marriage, and how identity is lost after marriage for female. All these are explored in her works. And her first novel, The Dark Holds No Terrors, which was published in 1980, established her as a significant voice in Indian literature. And Deshpande's another work, that is That Long Silence, which was published in 1988. This won Sahitya Academy Award, and it is considered as one of her prestigious works. Deshpande has also written numerous short stories, essays and children's books. This shows her versatility as a writer. She is multifaceted. She not only confined herself to one genre, but she has touched many genres such as short stories, essays and children's books. You can understand. And Deshpande's works often focus on the marginalized voices of women, reflecting her deep empathy for those who struggle against the societal norms and expectations. Her writing is actually characterized by its clear, unadorned prose and its ability to capture that subtle tensions and conflicts within the families and relationships. And Through her stories, Shashi Deshpande critiqued the patriarchal structures that limit women's autonomy, and not only limiting women's autonomy, but she is also highlighting their resilience and strength. That means she is actually on one hand criticizing the conventions, that shackles that are confining women's autonomy, and on the other hand she is also highlighting the women's resilience and women's strength through the women's struggles only. She continues to be a vocal advocate for women's rights and social justice, and she is using literature as the platform to address these kind of pressing emergency issues in contemporary Indian society. Let us dissect this unflinching story. This story is actually about a woman where a bride's body becomes a battleground for power, and here custom is the word. You understand, dear students, custom means the traditions. This is actually masking for one more thing, that is violence. Let us see in detail. The Intrusion by Shashi Deshpande is a poignant and deeply introspective short story that explores the psychological and emotional struggles of a young woman who has just entered into an arranged marriage. So, let us see the narrative. The narrative begins with the couple arriving at a secluded honeymoon destination. He hasn't given any name, but it is a remote fishing village by the sea. The protagonist, whose name is never revealed, she feels out of place and uncomfortable, both physically and emotionally, as she struggles to come to terms with her new role as a wife. The story delves into her inner thoughts. This story is also revealing her fears, doubts, and sense of alienation from her husband, whom she barely knows. As we have discussed already, this is an arranged marriage. She doesn't know her husband beforehand. That's why she barely knows him, and how much sense of alienation she can feel towards him, that is depicted by Deshpande. Through her perspective, Deshpande critiques the patriarchal structures that govern marriage and family life in India, and this is also highlighting the lack of agency. You must have been wondering, what is this agency? Agency is nothing but the power to make their own decisions. So, lack of agency, the lack of power to make their own decisions, and the emotional toll experienced by women in traditional arranged marriages. So, arranged marriages are not as beautiful as they are depicted, and that is clearly depicted in this Shashi Deshpande's The Intrusion. Now, let us look at the most striking features of the story. First one, the remote fishing village setting, where the sea serves as a powerful symbol of protagonist's emotions. You see, sea is vast, sea is uncontrollable, and at times sea is also overwhelming. In the same way, the women, the protagonist's feelings are the same, her emotions are also the same, vast, uncontrollable and overwhelming. This is actually depicting by the natural environment. The natural environment mirrors her inner turmoil as she is grappling with the feelings of isolation, vulnerability, and lack of control over her own life. Like we have already discussed, this is also called as lack of agency. Protagonist's arranged marriage, which thrusts her into a relationship with a man she barely knows. This tradition leaves her with a little emotional connection to her husband. This is also reflecting the broader struggles of women in patriarchal societies. Her inner turmoil and sense of alienation underscored the emotional and psychological challenges those are faced by women in such kind of arranged marriages. And let us look at the third aspect of the story, the climax of the story, where the husband forces himself on the protagonist. This is an ultimate act that she perceives as a violation of her privacy and autonomy. Even though he is a husband, he doesn't have any right to force himself on her. This moment underscores the themes of oppression and the loss of individuality faced by women in traditional marriages. It also highlights the power dynamics within the relationship, where the husband's desires take precedence over protagonist's feelings and consent. So here it is clearly shown that the man is winning over the women. The man's brutality is winning over women's feelings and women's consent. And let us take a look at the fourth aspect, that is protagonist's entrapment. The protagonist's entrapment, as she remains confined to her situation despite of her feelings of violation and alienation. This symbolizes the societal pressures and expectations that restrict women's autonomy and that also restrict women's silence through their voices. The story ends with the protagonist lying in the bed, feeling a deep sense of loss and humiliation after he forced himself on her, while her husband, who has done all this, he is sleeping soundly beside her. This final image is emphasizing on how women's voices are silenced, how their autonomy is suppressed in these traditional marital relationships. The Intrusion is a powerful exploration of psychological and emotional struggles faced by women in arranged marriages. This also critiques the lack of agency, as we have already discussed, and this also critiqued the sense of violation experienced by the protagonist, who is unable to reconcile her personal desires with societal expectations that are placed upon her. The story served as a powerful commentary on exploitation and oppression faced by women. This story also highlights the women's resilience and inner strength in these phase of societal constraints. Now let us take a look at the setting and symbolism. This story, as we have already discussed, is set in a remote fishing village by the sea. This location itself is serving as a powerful symbol of protagonist's emotional state. The sea, with its vastness and unpredictability, this sea is mirroring the inside feelings of the women or the protagonist. This sea is mirroring her feelings of isolation, also her vulnerability and her lack of control. The waves are crashing against the shore. This reflects her inner turmoil and how she is struggling to navigate her new role as a wife, and the emotional distance between her husband and herself. The secluded nature of village also emphasizing one more thing, that is protagonist's sense of entrapment. She is actually physically removed from her family, friends and all the life that she once knew. This is leaving her feeling isolated and disconnected, because dear students, once all the things that you know, all the things that you have experienced, all of them are suddenly removed from your life and you are thrown into an entirely new place, how isolated you will feel, how overwhelmed you will feel. The same things are represented here. The setting underscores the theme of alienation, as the protagonist is thrust into an unfamiliar environment with a man she barely knows. This is also highlighting the lack of agency women often experience in arranged marriages. And now let us discuss the same theme a little more in detail: arranged marriage and lack of agency. The one of the central themes of the Intrusion is the lack of agency experienced by women in arranged marriages. The protagonist is thrust or forced into a relationship with a man whom she barely knows. This is leaving her with very little emotional connection or very little understanding of her new role as a wife. She doesn't know what to do, what not to do. Her inner thoughts reveal her fears, doubts and the sense of alienation as she struggles to reconcile her personal desires with societal expectations placed upon her. This story is critiquing the traditional practice of arranged marriages, which often prioritize familial and societal expectations over individual desires and autonomy. So, here the protagonist's feelings of discomfort and alienation reflect the broader struggles of women in patriarchal societies, because here women's worth is tied to their ability to fulfill the traditional roles as wives and mothers, but not with their not connected with their personal progress. Even though women have personal aspirations, lot of things they wanted to achieve, but all of them are suddenly tied to their ability of fulfilling traditional roles as wives and mothers, you can imagine. And the third one is the climax, a violation of autonomy. So, the climax of the story occurred when the husband forces himself on the protagonist. This is an act that she perceived as a violation of her privacy and autonomy. Actually, here the husband is forcing himself on her and he is violating the women's rights. This moment underscores the themes of oppression and the loss of individuality faced by women in traditional marriages. The protagonist's feelings of violation and humiliation highlight the power dynamics within the relationship, where her husband's desires are dominating her own achievements or her own feelings. This act of intrusion serves as a metaphor for broader exploitation and oppression faced by women in patriarchal societies. The protagonist's inability to voice her feelings or resist her husband's advances, brutal advances, reflects the societal pressures and expectations that silence women's voices and that also suppress the women's autonomy. The story is critiquing the patriarchal structures that govern marriage, family life, and highlighting the emotional toll and the psychological toll, or the emotional stress and psychological stress experienced by women in these kind of relationships. And fourth one is entrapment and societal expectations. Despite of her feelings of violation and alienation, the protagonist is remained trapped in her situation. This symbolizes the societal pressures and expectations that confine or restrict women. The story ends with protagonist lying in the bed and she is feeling deep sense of loss and humiliation, while the husband, her husband, who is the cause of all this humiliation and loss, he is sleeping soundly beside her. So, you can see this image, this final image is emphasizing the silence of women's voices and suppression of autonomy in traditional marital relationships. The protagonist's entrapment reflects the broader societal norms that restrict women's autonomy, and this is also prioritizing the familial and societal expectations over individual desires. The story critiques the patriarchal structures govern marriage, family life, and the story also highlights the emotional struggles and physical struggles faced by women in these kind of relationships. Let us talk about the fifth concept, that is resilience and inner strength. While the story highlights the protagonist's feelings of violation and alienation, it also underscores her resilience and inner strength in the face of societal constraints. Despite her entrapment, the protagonist's inner thoughts reveal her awareness of her situation and her desire for autonomy and self-expression. Here actually her resilience is serving as a powerful commentary on strength and resilience of women in the face of societal oppression. So, we are not taking here her as one woman. The protagonist is actually representing all the women who are facing the same situation and how much they want their own resilience. The story critiques the patriarchal structures and especially the arranged marriages and also the family life into which the women are thrown to, while it is also highlighting the resilience and inner strength of women who are navigating all these constraints on their own without anybody's support. The protagonist's inner thoughts and feelings serve as a powerful reminder of the emotional and psychological toll experienced by all these women in traditional and arranged marriages. Even though their autonomy is being reduced, they are trying their level best to grab the resilience. And now, role of silence. Let us talk about the role of silence. The silence plays a significant role in the story as the protagonist is unable to voice her feelings or resist her husband's advances. This silence reflects the societal pressures and expectations that silences women's voices and that are suppressing their autonomy. The protagonist's inability to express her feelings or to assert her desires, these are underscoring the power dynamics within the relationship, where the husband's desires are dominating over wife's desires. The story critiques the patriarchal structures and arranged marriages or governed marriages and family life. This is also highlighting the emotional toll and psychological toll experienced by women in these kind of relationships, and the protagonist's silence serves as a powerful metaphor for broader silencing of women's voices in patriarchal societies, where their ability, as we have already discussed, is tied to fulfill their traditional roles as wives and mothers, but not as their personal progress. The sea is also symbolizing one more thing, that is protagonist's desire for freedom and autonomy, because she longs to break free from all these shackles of societal constraints that are confining her, that are actually completely setting her in boundaries. The natural environment serves as a powerful backdrop for protagonist's emotional journey. This is also highlighting the contrast between her inner desires and societal expectations that are placed upon her. And let's talk about the final image. The story ends with protagonist lying in the bed, feeling a deep sense of loss and humiliation, while her husband is sleeping soundly beside her. So, as we have already discussed, this final image emphasized the silencing of women's voices and the suppression of their autonomy in traditional marital relationships. The protagonist's entrapment reflects the broader societal norms that restrict women's autonomy, and this is also prioritizing familial and societal expectations over individual desires. So, the final image is actually a powerful reminder of the emotional and psychological toll experienced by women in these traditional arranged marriage settings. Of course, this is also showing one more thing, that is, this is depicting the women's resilience and determination to assert their autonomy. This story critiques patriarchal structures that govern marriage and family life, and how she is also highlighting the need for societal change to address the exploitation and oppression faced by the women. So, dear students, to wrap up or to sum up all that we have discussed till now, The Intrusion is a powerful and deeply introspective story that critiques patriarchal structures governing marriage and family life in India. Through the protagonist's inner thoughts and feelings, Shashi Deshpande highlights the lack of agency and emotional toll experienced by women in arranged marriages. This story also serves as a powerful commentary on exploitation and oppression faced by women, while this story is also highlighting their resilience and inner strength in the face of societal constraints. The Intrusion is a timeless critique of societal norms and powerful exploration of struggles faced by women in patriarchal society. This is actually a wake up call for societal change. This is highlighting the need to address this exploitation and oppression faced by women, and how women can assert their autonomy and self expression. Thank you, dear students, for listening.